Hey, music lovers, welcome to Musical Miles Podcast. I'm your host, Byron Duffin, and I am here with Miss Stacie Dagostino.
You did it.
Dagostino. I told you I'd foul that up. But anyway, we are in St. George, Utah, in Stacie's beautiful living room, and we're having a visit today because Stacie's, how this connection happened, I like to explain that. So Stacie's dad and I went to high school together. And so we've been friends our whole lives. And he is a fan of the podcast, and so he told me, he said, you got to meet my daughter, and you've got to hear her story. So you have a nonprofit that you and your husband run called Music Movement.
Yep.
Which is very cool, and it's all about music and helping mostly autistic children or
on
people.
Children on the spectrum, neurodiverse children. And our age is between, 2 and 18.
Okay.
So the whole spectrum, literally.
Yes.
And then also, we also set aside money for schools, special needs academies, hospitals, and do a lot of donations on a larger scale that way. Which is really, really fun. But my favorite is working with the individual families. Like we talked prior to this about providing experiences and providing music therapy and instrument donations and whatever it is. Sometimes it's just financial help to keep the lights on. So we get intimately involved with the individual families, with the kiddos, say on the spectrum or whatever ailment or disability they may have. So that's sort of our that's sort of the scope of the communities that we serve.
But really the core is the autistic children and
that's kind of where it started.
Yeah.
And has blossomed. Back 15 years ago, when it was 16 years ago, it was an idea on paper with 501c3 paperwork that was and that is not my forte.
Well, it's not our forte either. That's why we're a little slow at getting going on it. That's going to be Miss Shanda's job because I'm a little busy lining up interviews and then editing and getting everything out there. So Miss Shanda's going to be the brains behind the.
Can I borrow you?
I'm going to need to borrow you, I believe.
So we've got a lot to learn. We've learned a lot about the podcasting business and about the music business, which is what we love.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that neither one of us are really truly musical. We love music, but being musicians really isn't our thing.
Yeah, me too.
But Shanda's mother was a songwriter, and she had a grand piano, a standard grand piano in her house, and she would play Miss Shanda to sleep every night. And so we've just have a real true love of music. But there's no music talent for generations that I know of before me on my side of the family, other than my parents liked music, and there was always music playing in the house, and so we kind of got our love of it. But I think that the important thing to point out is that how music is such a healing power.
Yeah, it's my favorite topic.
Yeah.
We have a overarching just sort of goal and mission, but when I really sort of strip it down to its basic core, it's that music heals, period. And for me, I can relate to, I'm not a musician, guitar collector.
I love guitars
ridiculously.
as well. Yeah.
And it calls to me. Sometimes I visit it, and sometimes I'm like, this is just too much. But songwriting and poetry and writing, I started when I was very young.
Okay.
So and I wrote a song called "Write My Way Back," and so it for me, music just absolutely. It felt like it was part of my DNA, but it was more of an outpour of just feelings and ideas, and I would write my way back out of really dark times.
Sure.
And so
I love that.
Yeah. It for me, I see now in the work that we're so blessed to do, kiddos that I get so emotional. Kiddos that they call them nonverbal, but you play them a song, give them an instrument, and they're singing on key, on cue. And, you have these children that don't even, yes, no, is difficult, but they will sing happy birthday,
Sure.
And when I saw that come together and I understood what a release it was and a lifesaver for me, and I just sort of, connected very early also with the disabled community, and that's kind of where that came from. So no, I'm not a musician, and no, I don't have an autistic child or anybody close to me in my family that has a disability.
Sure.
So it's just kind of strange where the passion came from, and just wanting to get that into the world somehow.
It takes a special person and a special personality of someone who can do what you do and be involved in that world. Because I grew up with an older sister who was mentally handicapped. She was oxygen deprived as a baby, and
I get it.
So, sweet spirit, but that's a challenge. Those families, they have that commitment for life, for the life of that child. Yeah. And my parents dealt with it, she passed at 51 years old, but
there's so much there's so much in their spirits, this community, and let me back up. I am so sorry for that loss, but aren't the feelings beautiful that they, if they weren't, if we didn't love them that much, then we wouldn't miss them that much. And it, that's a beautiful gift that you take with you. And the gift of empathy also, when you can look at a family and truly understand that there is no financial, aid,
right,
or there's not a second option, and not being able to afford a $50 guitar rips my heart out.
Oh yeah.
I'm just like,
or a ticket to a concert,
right? Or an experience, because they often have families, and we're seeing more and more, which I'd be so interested to learn more about. But we have families that we help that have 3-4 children on the spectrum, with some sort of ailment. And I'll tell you a quick story. So we have a family, the DeSalzo family, that we recently met and fell in love with. 3 children on the spectrum, but also in addition, one little gal is nearly deaf, and the other, I believe it's the little boy, that is blind as well. Wow. So this family, but their light and their joy and the appreciation that they offered us when we provided the first grant and that first bridge to music for all 3 of them,
right,
lit up their world.
Right.
And then in situations like that, we will provide an instrument as they start to develop an aptitude for, say, a drum or something, if they're more, a keyboard and those kinds of things, where not a lot of strings and, that kind of thing. But those instruments, they can pick up really quickly, and they can take them home from, they can have those instruments at home to practice with.
Sure.
There's no way they would have access to that
right,
before, right? So this beautiful little family that we've helped out, we were able to provide grants for all 3 children, and we voted at the end of the year to extend it another year. So they'll have 2 years of, completely covered music therapy sessions, the instruments. Wow. And for me, it's, kind of back to your story, not understanding that from a distance, and it's like, oh, that must be hard. But when you're in it and you know that you've got 3 kids for a lifetime, and all funding drops off, anything that government offers, which isn't much, and sort of slipping out of our hands as we speak. Yeah. At 18, we call it fall off the cliff. So there's nothing.
Nothing.
And if it reminds me of another sort of program and core grant that we offer, and that we've set a little bit aside each year in our giving budget for independent living initiatives.
Oh, wow.
For the kiddos that we see sort of transition into young adulthood and adulthood. And we partner with various organizations that serve that community and help with all kinds of the arts and those sorts of programs that are also hard to fund.
Yeah.
So that is really something that evolved over time, because our focus was the younger sweet little children, and then as they grow up, they're not that cute little face anymore.
No.
And so they drop off the cliff. And so that
But they
evolved.
still have a need. They don't, at 18, they don't just go, well, they're 18 now, they're on their own.
Yeah, and think if you have early intervention and you start putting either an instrument or dance or electronics or whatever, and music, like as far as writing and being on the, there's so much that goes into building
Sure.
a song.
Oh, absolutely.
And, we've worked with kiddos that have started to develop internships and jobs like in, on that side of not necessarily
wonderful.
holding the guitar, but, there's so many talents that these children can, the early intervention, and then all of a sudden there's a future, there's a possibility.
Well, their minds,
right?
they just need to unlock their capabilities. And I think, music does that, and they may have a career in the recording industry somehow.
Right.
I mean, I look at some of those control panels in those studios, and they're massive. They got all these knobs and dials, and those are the brains that can run that stuff.
Absolutely. And you're right. The producing, the back end, the editing, you have a runner, for heaven's sakes. They just want to be in the environment and creating, and it's so special to watch this community, with the awareness around it, the acceptance. I mean, it's rough to see like the diagnosis, but at least there is one.
And there's hope, and we're learning more every day through programs like your own. To help them. Look, music really, really is a healing tool. It's a medicine. I interviewed a songwriter by the name of James Dean Hicks, who's got multiple number ones, I think 7 number ones. He had the first 3 songs he wrote ended up number 1 for the Oak Ridge Boys. And he said, man, this songwriting's easy.
That's a blast from the past.
That's easy, But anyway, he said, man, I found out real quick I didn't have a lot of material. But he said to me, he said, Byron, he said, music is the salve that heals all.
Amen. No?
Yeah. So anyway.
I have some of the most fun concerts that we've hosted. This will be our 10th year of a big concert that we put on, and it changes from city to city every year. And one of my favorite shows was the Lee Bryce show. He's performed for us a couple of times, which is like one of my favorite artists that ever lived. So talk about a dream come true. And that man's soul, and just there for the right reasons, and just shows up. And he did a round with one of my favorite singer-songwriters, Billy Dawson out of Nashville, who's one of our best, dearest friends and a huge ambassador for music movement. So he was there, and he knows the other singer-songwriter, which is Garth Brooks' daughter, Allie Colleen. Have you heard her music?
Do you know that we were invited to a fundraiser in Nashville in January for Project Canine Heroes, which is retired police dogs. So Jason Johnson, who's the CEO, has been a guest on the podcast, and really love that guy, and he invited us out. But he had dinner with Allie and her mother during the NFR in Vegas this year, and he said, Byron, you need to come because she's performing at the fundraiser. They had 22 artists performed at this.
How cool!
And they had the ice storms, and our flights got canceled, and we didn't end up going. So we missed out. getting to meet her, but I understand she's very talented. But Lee Bryce, what a great guy. And we actually, in August, we were here we were in Vegas for the Las Vegas Songwriter Festival, and Lee Bryce was the headliner. And he brought all the songwriters out on stage that had written or co-written with him, several that were there, several of the hits. But we've had the pleasure of interviewing a guy by the name of Joe Leathers, who co-wrote Save the Roses with Lee Bryce. Do you know that song?
Oh my gosh, another kind of blast from the past. Huh?
We love that song. They actually played it at my nephew's funeral, and then I interviewed Lee, or not Lee. I didn't get to interview Lee. I got to interview Joe, and we talked about that, and I was a puddle of tears.
Yeah.
So
I get that too.
Yeah. Anyway.
So that was one of my favorite concerts for all those reasons, but it was just kind of around, and the singer-songwriter and all of them came out and, told some stories behind the songs. And that's one of my, those are my favorite little gigs to hit up when you're in Nashville. Or
we're hosting our very first songwriter round this Thursday in Idaho Falls. I don't think it's ever happened in Idaho Falls.
Right on. And that's something that you're hosting?
We're hosting it Thursday with 6 local songwriters. Well, one's coming from Utah, one's coming from Provo. But we're doing it. We've got two Thursday scheduled. We call it Thursday in the Round. And this Thursday, we're really excited. We're wanting to bring a full-blown songwriter festival to Idaho Falls and bring in some of our Nashville songwriter connections that we've made since doing the podcast. So, but anyway, I love that. There's nothing more intimate than a songwriter round and a listening room. I mean, they should have multiple podcasts about this, because I think, country music is so different. Not that all genres don't tell a story, but, I bet 90% of the artists that we've booked over the years have been country music artists, and there's a lot of reasons for that. They're very rarely prima donna, and asking a charity to buy a $500 bottle of tequila, so they're there for 45 minutes. Right.
Like, seriously.
Right.
But, very rarely do you have someone that isn't there for the right reason, and that won't, that will donate, their time, at a very discounted rate, and they just work. They're so easy to work with, and that's all the experience that I've had with that community. And so when you branch outside of that and you experience a rock band or something, and you're just like, wow, this is intense.
Oh yeah, no, 100% agree. The country music world, and we've kind of experienced a little bit, because as you look at country music, there's kind of the Texas country scene, and the Texas country, the red dirt, Americana, it's kind of a mix.
And like an indie sort of vibe.
Indie, but they're all pretty cool, and they're all pretty chill. And these songwriter festivals that we go to interview the songwriters. And now, we've been blessed they've asked us to participate and interview the artists in front of the part of the crowd as part of the show.
How cool.
We've done that in Red Lodge and as well as Whitefish. But it's cool because those people are all just so genuine. I really have yet to meet someone, and then the next guy says, we get done with his interview, and he goes, hey, you need to meet my friend and interview him. And it's this, our whole deal's happened very organically, which I think is what happens especially when you're doing something for a good cause. I'm sure your deal has grown amazing because just by word of mouth.
It's, speaking being blessed, so our fundraisers, we don't really seek out grants once in a while, but that's just so much red tape and paperwork, and we have a lean machine. So that sort of branching out it's just there's so much growth that it's so hard to believe. So our funding has come from, we host 2 golf tournaments a year.
Okay.
So we do one in Dana Point, and then East Coast, this is our first year in Myrtle Beach. So we kind of,
fun.
It's going to be wild. No, it's going to be great. So anyhow,
Does John Daly participate with you guys? Because he's a songwriter and a golfer. Did you know that? Did you know John Daly is actually a songwriter?
No.
And can play the guitar. He actually cut a song with Aaron Lewis that Justin Andrews wrote, who's been on our podcast. And in fact, his episode just launched yesterday. Justin's did, but anyway, he wrote a song. And John Daly, speaking of golf and music,
that's funny.
And he cut that song with Aaron Lewis.
Well, I have a golf course across the street.
You do.
I have plenty of guitars. Do you think we can get?
Let's get John Daly here. You got to listen. It's going to take a little bit of beer and I think some tequila or whatever,
also can manage
or
that.
Vodka. I think anyway. But
we can manage.
Yeah.
We're here to please. No, it's fun to talk about. I'm a cowgirl at heart, being from southeastern Idaho and living in the Rockies. I lived in Salt Lake City for a while, and so we found our way back. My beautiful husband and partner and my traveling, let's just go try a city. Yeah, it was so fun. But we've settled here, and it's fun to reach out to the local community. And I just had a great meeting with a partner that we're going to sync up with that provides, right in alignment with our goals. And we're going to work on a fundraiser, possibly a golf tournament, but trying to do a concert series at Tuacahn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
you need to please keep us in the loop on that deal, because
100%, yeah.
Because and especially the music and the songwriter deal. I know Lyle Lovett's played here, and I've known Lyle for 25 years. Have not interviewed him on the podcast yet, but we've hung out with him several times, and he's such a sweet guy. And anyway, there's lots of great artists, and this is such a great venue.
And it's part of the concert. Oh, so the other two, we host a concert in the Midwest. This year it's in Kansas City.
Okay.
And then our big concert's coming up in May, and that one is just so fun. This year it's the first time we're doing a cover band, but they're world sought after, 10-piece band. They're called the Yacht Rock Review.
Oh, wow.
They're going to be amazing, but it's one of those, it's different. Usually we kind of have the name recognition and that kind of a pull, but they seem incredible. So,
and that's going to be in May where?
This year it's in Fort Lauderdale.
In Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
So you move it each year. The concert's in a different. And what's the reasoning for that? I mean, are you just?
So we partner with one of the largest wireless infrastructure association conferences. So they have about 3,000 attendees.
Okay.
So it's primarily, and we do we call it a private party, but it's those individuals coming from the concert. So we kind of open up the week with a charity concert, and we promote it within that, the exhibitors, and
that makes sense.
So it's one of the largest telecommunications wireless conventions in the world. It's like a big one, and we've been partners with them for 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
So they move the conference every year, and we kind of tag along.
Sure.
We've been riding on their coattails for a long time.
Well, that makes sense.
It's been so much fun. We get 500-600 people that are there for raising funds and partying and mingling and networking, and it's a blast. Not sure where next year is going to be, but this year we're going to raise the roof in Fort Lauderdale.
Well, I like to understand how you've done this, and kind of what your format's been, because as we try to put together a nonprofit of our own, with that's music related, but how do you put that? I know a lot of people, whether it's in the ag industry or even now in the music industry, in the rodeo world, the horse world, we know a lot of people. So, but as you talk about this, that's very much Bill had a career in the wireless industry.
I did as well.
Oh, you did as well. Okay, so that's how you met.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we knew each other in business, and then I roped him into helping me. We're a great yin and yang.
Oh, yeah.
He's the operations spreadsheet, he helps me keep my ducks in a row a lot in the back end, and he also is a relationship. He's been in the wireless industry for, well, give me a guy that's been in the industry and they know Bill.
Sure.
I was in it for 20 years. So, that's kind of naturally how the funding came about.
Okay.
And our sponsors have been with us for, 15 years, a lot of them. Like every year for each event, they've shown up for us.
Yeah.
And so they are truly part of the cause. They, the secondary is that they're there to network together. We've been so blessed because kind of the leaders in the industry have supported us.
Sure.
And so they drive a lot of the attendance and other sponsors. So like on our West Coast that we just had in October of 25, we had 36 companies sponsor us. And so that kind of following is what we kind of grassroots started with, and then it's built obviously over the years. And then it's, again, like 500-600 people come to the concert. We keep trying to kind of, it's just like anything, right? You learn something new, you take away what worked and what didn't.
Right.
So now we're in a great rhythm. And I'll tell you, I'm the only employee, but I do have, I outsource our event planning and execution, incredible marketing team. All of our accounting is outsourced, so like I'm not touching any of the money. Also highly recommend that.
Right.
Because your donors really want to know that their funds are going directly to your programs. And when we have an independent accounting firm, they are running the tight ship, right? And it just gives us and our donors peace to know that money is flowing through without us touching it.
It's total transparency, so you don't have to you don't have to worry about and because we hear it every day in the news about somebody who's ran a fund a nonprofit and then they absconded with the funds,
and it
makes me ill, and because there's so many people that those funds could have really truly helped. So, but we done a little bit of research, and so I know that's very important. I actually have a friend who's an investment guy, who I just said, hey, one, would you be on our board, and two, would you handle the funds?
Mm-hmm.
Would you invest the money so that once it comes in, it goes into a solid, safe investment. Yeah. He's got a very good track record, and he's very trustworthy. And then, as that money grows, that also helps perpetuate more funds to help.
Right. Yeah. And the board, seeking out the board is extremely important.
Sure.
But at the same time, don't let that hold you back from taking the steps, because it takes a minute. I mean, you've got to wait for your 501c3, but I wouldn't even start a nonprofit without it, because your donors want to know that it's tax deductible. They want to know that it's a legit charity. They want to be able to look you up on Charity Navigator or some of those that you eventually start reporting into. One of the biggest, I think, accomplishments that we've arrived at. We at the end of the year, after reconciliation, we've kept our every dollar that's donated flows directly to our program. 94 cents of every single dollar flows directly to our programs.
Wow.
So because it's a lean machine,
right.
We're watching every single penny down to the penny, right?
Sure.
And so having an accounting partner that does that, I mean, that's a full-time job.
Do those people donate their time and services?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. We're in no position to, pay a board member. It's important, though, as it grows. I mean, identify some key players that are good at what you're not good at.
Yeah.
That have more relationships and that can kind of help you with different verticals of like target sponsors and people that you can bring in, other artists, or what I'm saying, like maybe pick a couple that could jump on board and then fill it as you go.
Sure.
I mean, it doesn't have to be by the book. And so I think that when I just released the pressure of starting it, and like it doesn't have to be perfect. Imperfect is fine because you're starting.
Do you meet as an entire board physically? Do you sit down? How often?
Just once a year.
Once a year.
Yeah, we all come to Dana Point.
Okay.
And then we have regular board meetings, just Zoom.
Zoom.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
No other way to do it these days,
yeah,
right?
No, well, yeah, it's very simple. The world's a very small place anymore. And the fact that most of us, but as I look at that, and try to put this together in my mind, a board, I think about with ours, we should include a songwriter that's willing,
absolutely.
a legitimate someone who's been in the industry a long time and successful, probably a Nashville songwriter that can serve on the board, as well as an accountant and an investment banker and those types
lawyer,
of things. So lawyers,
it's great to.
How many board members? Excuse me. Sorry.
No, that's okay. There is 12 of us now.
Oh wow.
So it's decent size, and we don't ask a lot of our board. They sit in, they weigh in, we just get their help with relationships. On a board, you either give or get.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of the formula that has worked for us. We're starting to kind of ramp up in needing a couple more, just for that same, like a lawyer or, it's tough. It's just hard to find those individuals that are deeply involved and care deeply about it. And I've been lucky enough to find, some of those that just have our best interest at heart, that will jump in, and help us form relationships we don't have, give us advice and guidance, find other opportunities for fundraising, et cetera, et cetera. So that's important, but again, just let it grow. It, naturally, it just keeps opening doors, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And
sure.
So that's, how you get started is just, who's your community? Who cares?
So when you decide, my question would be to now, how do you decide who to give the funds to? Do people apply?
They do. Yeah.
They do apply. Okay.
Yep.
So there's an application process, and then the board reviews those, or you review them and narrow it down, or how does that go?
So it's just me. And obviously we report into the board what we're doing, and then over a certain amount or threshold, then I get a vote. But if I had to vote on every single one, it just would be absolutely impossible. And so it's like, okay, I know what I'm doing, and I report the numbers. It is quite overwhelming, and so I'm going to bring in hopefully some interns and some help with that. But it does require, that's the piece that requires the human process. I mean, it's manual in that we receive, and we deeply care about every applicant. I've never come across one that didn't deserve it and that didn't need it, which is real hard.
Yeah.
But, I went from having maybe like 20 to 50 a year to last quarter, I have over 500 applications.
Oh my goodness.
So
how do they find out about you?
You know what? You start to it's a search engine sort of a thing.
Okay.
And then other organizations like Autism Speaks is a huge organization, and we're on their resource list.
Okay.
So when parents are looking for, grants and things like that. So we we didn't even approach them to do that. It just kind of starts popping up. It's like, I heard from you, is referred from you,
Oh,
so,
okay.
and then we also, we're, the way that we're organized, which is probably the reason why we can run a lean machine mostly, is, we keep everything, as simple as possible. And we are just the bridge for the grants. So we essentially pay for it, and we help kind of connect the music therapist, but the family usually, because we do it from California to New York.
Right, right.
So we don't have the ability, and it's not an avenue I'd want to go down. So we connect them with the local music therapist that can be, on site. They help select, and then we pay the music therapist. And so we're just that bridge of funding.
Sure.
And it's simple because it's kind of transactional. The human side of it is, kind of narrowing things down. It's like, it's really difficult to do. Some aren't filled out correctly. So unfortunately, they'd have to go on the next cycle and things like that. But you know, I did this television interview with, where were we? Nashville. I can't remember. No, we were living in Dallas at the time. Anyhow, it was it was fun. It was terrifying to be on the news. I'm not so good at it. Anyways, I was talking. He said, "What's your biggest ask?" And at the time, I said, "We need applications. Like we need to bring the people in and attract the people in that need us." And now I'm like, we don't need any more applications.
We don't need any more applications. The challenge is, I'm sure you reached a point where you probably had all kinds of funds to help people, and you didn't have the people to help. Now that's the
now
limiting
it's like,
factor.
Hey, folks,
I can only imagine. Well, you know, we have an idea what we'd like to do with our foundation, but you know, there's lots of things to learn, and the process is going to take time. We know that, but you know, we just see the value in the music and the healing.
Yeah.
So,
well, it allows you to host, you know, even pop-up events and that kind of thing, and it is a motivation for donors and attendees of events to know that their donation is going to a legitimate 501c3 and is truly a tax write-off, and helps them. You know, whatever motivates people, right?
Sure.
I believe that, you know, you're giving them. People want to give.
Yeah, they do.
And if you provide that opportunity, you're going to get people that care and that want to give. And so it's for me, it's a privilege just to say, you know, hey, we have a safe place for that to land.
Yeah.
And so
because there's millions of dollars, Stacie, that you know this, and I think the general public probably knows, but they that sounds like a good cause, and they donate, and it doesn't land where it belongs, or a very small percentage of their donation actually gets to the people who need it. Yeah. And so we want to. I love that whole idea. You know, I know some people start nonprofits to make a living, and that's not what we're after. We're after, you know, we truly want to help.
Right.
So,
and we want the charity to evolve as really truly a legacy, and we want it to continue. I forget the numbers, but I think only like less than 50% of charities survive past like 5 years, and then 80% don't survive past 10, or don't quote me on these numbers, but they're kind of astonishing. Yeah. So for us to be turning 15 this year, I didn't even realize that, and it was my sweet Bill and partner that mentioned it at our last event, and my jaw was just like, wow, we have a lot to celebrate. Yeah. You know,
you truly do.
And we just want it to go on and to live on. So we're trying to get to a place from a revenue and our assets, et cetera, so that it's working for us. So we have we can hit our giving budget. And you know, the funds.
Well, you would love to build a perpetual fund that, like you said,
that just lives on.
That lives on. And so, you know, that's the important thing, is that it continues to grow and continues to build that nest egg, so that if someone, you know, maybe doesn't want to put as much effort into it as Stacie and Bill have, that it still will carry on and help fund these children. So, well, it's so cool, and it's very admirable, and thanks for sharing your story with us.
Of course. Well, it's an honor to sit down with you, being a lifelong friend of the family.
Well, I mean, I knew your grandparents. I mean, you know, your dad and I ran amok when we were younger, and had a lot of fun, and but I knew your grandparents, and I've just, you know, like I say, I've been friends of the family forever and ever, and so, but I had no idea that you were doing this until Ted shared. So.
It's been honor of a lifetime. So if there's anything I can do, advice on the building of the 5-1, it's not rocket science.
Sure.
It's just the commitment, and you know, kind of taking it a step at a time.
Sure.
And, don't let it intimidate you, or if it's not all built perfectly together, right? It's just find the people that, you know, have the skill sets and talents to bring to the table that, you know, you can call on, and just kind of, you know, gradually build it. And before you know it, you know, it's a great story to tell, and you'll get support. Because your people will be like, that's, you know, that is going to a legit place. So,
well, thank you.
Let me know if I can help.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Hey, for Musical Miles Podcast, I'm your host, Byron Duffin, here with my new friend, Stacie, old family friend, Stacie. We will see you somewhere down the road. Adios for now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.